everybody, welcome back to the Essential Owl. Erin here to make another cold processed soap. This is custom order number 4 of 6. Yes, 4 of 6. There will be 7 loaves total. The last one that I'll be making is going to be a double batch, so I'm still trying to figure out exactly the best way to do that because my glass mixing bowl that I usually use, you can see it back here in the corner, it's full of oil and there is no room in it for anything else. So if I were to add my last solution to it, it would overflow and that would be no good. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But today I will be making the confetti soap that I made last time. You can see I've already got my oils here, and I already have mixed in some titanium dioxide to whiten that up. And this time I also added a little bit of this. This is Snowflake Sparkle Mica by Nurture Soap. Let me just pop that open. You can see there, it's just a very shimmery shimmer. I mean, that's really that's really all that it is. I know it comes across as a little bit silver or gray, and it is. However, this will not color a soap by itself. The only thing that this does is add a little bit of extra shimmer and sparkle to your soap. That is it. So, just as a word of advice to anyone out there that soaps or that is interested in making soap, the Winter White Mica does nothing, or I'm sorry, the Snowflake Sparkle Mica will not color a soap. Now, for the confetti, I've got this stuff going on again. This is just shredded up soap. If you watched the last video, my last custom order video set, you will know what this is from. But for anyone out there who is new, welcome aboard. I'm glad to have you around. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. But I made a batch of soap that was supposed to be a Valentine's sort of soap, and it seized on me immediately because the 2 fragrance oils that are in this were, I believe the 2 fragrance oils were Fairy Garden and Fresh Cut Rose. Yes, from Nurture Soap. The Fairy Garden performed totally fine. It worked perfect. And then the Fresh Cut Rose seized the soap immediately. So I was left with a big chunk of nastiness. It was very ugly. So my solution was to chop it up, or rather to shred it and add it to a white base. Now, I ended up with an entire loaf of that stuff, of the original batch. So I had quite a bit left over that I was able to shred for this batch. So, I guess the only thing left to do is to jump right into the making of the soap. Now, the base of this soap is not fragranced. And that is because these soap shreds back here are fragranced and they smell amazing despite how that soap batch turned out with the seizure and all that fun happy stuff. It smells really, really good, and there is so much of the confetti that I pack into this confetti soap that it doesn't need any additional fragrance. So with all of that being said, let's jump right into the making of this soap. We've got that all mixed in. And now what we have to do is add our soap shreds to the base that we have here. And it's very thin, as you can see. That's fine, it doesn't matter because I'm not trying to do any kind of swirling or anything like that. So the fact that there is no color or anything in this, I wouldn't really mind if it was quite thick. So let's get to adding, and what I'm gonna do is just add a little bit at a time and mix it all in just to avoid accidentally pushing a bunch out of my bowl, which will still probably happen. And I save a little bit for the top as well. Okay, let's mix this all in. And you might notice that the batter is a little bit of an off-white. And for those of you that don't know, this soap is a custom order, so it has a custom recipe. And one of the oils that was recommended for this custom order is hemp oil. And hemp oil is a very, very dark green. The last time that I made this, it was even more off-white. It did lighten up a little bit after it had sat and saponified for a little while and gone through the curing process and all that fun stuff. But it's extremely dark green. If I had a little bit out to show you, I would. But it makes it really difficult to get bright whites. And I changed the recipe up just a little bit this time around. I still used all the same oils, I just used them in different proportions. And that helped a lot, but it's still hard to get white, and that's really all I have to say about that. When I made this last time using the old version of the recipe, it was hard to get colors to look exactly right because of that super duper dark green oil. It's much easier this time around just because there's different proportions of oils in there, but all right. And this is how much I'm going to leave for the top. I'm just making sure that that confetti is good and mixed in, and you can see what it looks like there. It looks kind of chunky. It looks really kind of gross. But it looks really good in the finished bars. All right, so now I'm gonna bring my mold here into focus. And let's move this out of the way a little. And I'm just going to pour. Oh goodness, I made a mess. That's okay. That's why I always have paper towels around, because I'm very mess prone when I'm making soap. Wow. I think I did that same exact thing last time I made this soap. I'm pretty sure. Now I'm just kind of tapping it down, making sure that everything is good and spread out nice and even, and I'll just pour just a little bit more. There we go, to bring everything up to the top nice and even. Now, just going to clean up these edges really fast before I put the confetti on top. And clean up my mess. It's not an Escentual video without a mess. Alright, this is going to be kind of difficult, I can tell. But if I get soap everywhere, I guess I just get soap everywhere. So, there we go. All right, now I get to decorate the top with this. Hope you all can see. I got a new phone just the other day, and the camera is a little bit better, and it looks like the ratio is a little bit different, the aspect ratio. I can't really tell for sure, but it definitely seems like it. I have the phone positioned in the same place that I always do. For those of you that don't know, I film with my phone. I don't have a fancy camera or lights or anything like that. And I have everything sitting in the same spot as I always do when I film, and just looking at the phone screen, it looks different. Nothing else has changed. Alright, so I'm just piling up these little soap confettis on top of the soap. And the reason for that is because I know that quite a bit of it is going to fall off. So if I add more than what I really need, I know that I will end up with no bare spots or anything like that. I also like to tap them down into the soap just a little bit to kind of seat all the confetti down in there as much as possible. Again, to help ensure that I'm not going to have any giant bare spots on top of the soap or anything. And once the soap has hardened, after, maybe before, either way, after the soap has hardened, it's gone through its saponification process and it's ready to be taken out and cut, I will sort of very lightly brush over the top and knock any loose ones off, and then a little bit more will also fall off when you go to cut. So now I'm just going to clean up these edges again. And that's also going to knock off quite a bit, anything that's hanging off the edge. My edges aren't going to be totally perfect and clean on the mold because of the confetti. It just makes it too hard to make clean lines. I could leave a little bit of space on the edges of the actual soap, but I prefer the look of a pretty much totally covered soap as opposed to one that has a ring of undecorated soap around the edge. And that's just a personal preference. Okay, there is that. Now, when you make a confetti soap, a lot of people will make a smaller batch because, of course, when you add the confetti, you're increasing the volume of your overall soap batter when you include the confetti. So there is a little bit left over, and all I'm going to do is take that extra batter and pour it into another mold, and I will keep that for personal use or give it to the lady who ordered the soap, or you could really do whatever with it. But I am just going to pour the rest of this batter, because as you can see, there's quite a bit in the bottom left. So this is the tall skinny mold from Brambleberry. And I don't use it that often because I'm not big on the tall skinny bars because it's honestly, it's not that much taller than the molds that I currently use. And it just, I don't know, the bar sizes, I'm not very happy with the bar size that I get when I cut the bars that come out of this particular mold. But it's really good for using if you want to, or for me in particular, if I want to do a small test batch, or if I have leftover batter in cases like this, or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with the mold. You do have to sort of prop the sides up if you fill it all the way up, because the sides will bow out a little, and then you'll get funky shaped bars. But other than that, there is absolutely nothing wrong with this mold. It's just not one of my favorites. Alright, push this extra batter down off the sides. And I'll just jiggle it a little to make everything all nice and even. Sort of tap it down. And that is it. Let's bring you on for a close-up. So here is the little remainder of the soap. Just a tad little bit. There's less than an inch of batter in the bottom of this, so I cut them fairly wide, about that wide. But yeah, so that'll be a nice little gift for myself, possibly. And then here is the actual confetti soap. You can see all the different confettis, the pink and the red. I know it looks a little bit strange from this angle, but once it's cut, it's really interesting, really pretty, and really fun to look at. So that's all that I have for this portion of the video. I will bring you all back for the cut. See, quite a bit of the little confettis came off. Just for a little bit of perspective, but no blank spots on top. We are back to cut the custom order cold process soap. This is the confetti soap, and you all already know that because these videos are going to be combined. But it has been several hours. It is now 12:30 in the morning. I made the soap at around 7:30, and I just wanted to show you all what it looks like. So here is the top. It came out very nice, and this is after I have brushed all the excess off as much as possible anyway, without being too rough on it. I will turn it on its side so that it's laying, a little bit fell off there just now, but it will be laying like this, and I will be cutting from the top, or rather from this side, and that's to prevent any of these being dragged through the soap and causing drag marks. But here is the sides, and you can see all those little soap confettis in there, just hanging out. They're ready to come out and say hello. And like I said, some more of these confettis are going to fall off as I cut, and that's totally fine. And here is the little tiny loaf really this is more like just a really long bar. But this was the excess, the remainder of the loaf after I had filled up this loaf. We're going to pretend that my table isn't a complete disaster right now. Because this is, I've made 2 batches of soap so far tonight, and I need to make more. So I had to take out this soap so that I could go ahead and cut it so that I can use my other mold, because I only have 2. So let's go on and get to cutting. Let me tighten up my string here. Don't want a mishap again. Get that nice and tight. Yeah. All right. So let's make this first cut. And it's still a little bit soft, but like I mentioned the last time that I made this confetti soap, the confetti is quite old. It's about, I don't know, maybe 2 months, 3 months. So it has fully cured, saponified, and it has hardened. So it's interesting feeling how the wire moves through the loaf, because the white base that we made today is still, while it's hard enough to cut, it's still relatively soft compared to the little confettis. And it also leaves a little bit of a texture on the bar. So that's interesting as well. And some of these confettis are going to fall off as I cut, and that's fine. So there is the back of the bar, and I do have a little bit of a lip here, and that's just from where I wasn't able to clean off the edges as well, and I'm just going to trim that little excess off before I take it to the customer. And then here is what the inside looks like. Oh, it's so cute. Bring it in for a close-up. So you can see all the little red confettis and all the little pink. And then there's the top. As you can see, I did not end up with any bare spots on top, which was the goal. And I think that we succeeded with that. And you'll see I don't have the loaf completely back up to the edge back here, and that's because I do have this little lip, and I don't want to completely crush it and smush it into the side of the soap if I can avoid it. So I'm letting it hang over just a little bit. Normally I would back it all the way up to make sure that the soap log doesn't move, but I'm going to kind of hold it with my hand to make sure that it doesn't move. I do have it all the way forward though. Okay. So there's one side, and then the other. I wish that we had smell-o-vision, and I also wish that I could better describe this texture. It's not super duper textured, but you can feel the little confettis. And then there's the top. I feel like smell-o-vision would help me a lot because it would be useful to showcase the fragrances that I use, and it would also help me with my sales so that people could smell it before they buy it. One of the big selling points for soap is how it smells, of course, and buying over the internet, I'm shooting myself in the foot here, is a little bit of a risk because smells come across differently to different people. So you never know quite exactly what it's going to smell like. And I do my best to describe what the different bars smell like. But again, scent is different for everyone. So it's a little bit of a chore but it is a risk I'm willing to take for my craft. And this is cutting through wonderfully. So there's one side, and then the other, on top. And these smell fantastic, by the way. Very floral, very rosy, with just little bits of hints of other notes. It's great. These bars are still warm to the touch. They're not hot, but they are, if you can hear the knocking, they're quite firm. So this was definitely ready to cut. There's the top. There's one side, and then the other. And I'm glad that this one doesn't seem to be crumbling as bad. The last time that I made this confetti soap, it was the first time I'd ever made confetti soap, and it did crumble just a little bit around the edges from the confetti. The last batch had even more confetti than this in it. This is quite full of confetti in my opinion, and the last batch had even more in it. And it turns out that confetti can make your soap a little bit crumbly in texture around the edges, especially when you cut. And that's just part of it. But I think it helped that I didn't use quite as much confetti this time. And just for curiosity's sake, I wonder how warm they are still. Okay. So if you can see, that's 93 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's pretty warm. It's not, you know, gonna burn me or anything like that. It's definitely comfortable to touch. So there's one side, and the other, and the top. Y'all have to tell me if I move through this part too fast. So I want you all to be able to see, and especially with this soap, it's pretty much the same in every bar, just confetti everywhere and confetti on top. So I feel like even if I do move through it a little bit fast, you have 10 chances to see what the bar looks like. So there's one side, and then the other, and the top. This will be the last cut. Right down the middle. So let's do the end bar first. There's one side, and then the back, and the top. And then the last bar, there you go, the other side, and the top. Now, before I end the video, I thought that I would also cut the little tiny bars. Just loosen up this wire. For anyone curious, if there's anyone out there that doesn't use a soap cutter like this, but you're thinking about it, or if you do use a soap cutter like this, if you're not loosening your wire before you put your cutter away to store, you definitely should, because it weakens the arm of the soap cutter being under that much tension all the time, and it's likely to crack or break. And I have seen it happen. It has not happened to me because I loosened my wire after every use and just retighten it when I need it. But I have seen it happen. It does happen, and it very well may happen to you. So make sure that you are loosening up your wire. So I'm just going to take this little bar, I'll lay it like that, and I'm going to find my knife that I use to cut soap with. So here is the knife that I'm going to use to cut. And for anyone wondering, I only use this on soap. I do not use this for food. It's kind of useless for cutting food anyway. I mentioned this in the last confetti soap cutting video as well, but this knife is terrible. I don't think I could cut myself if I tried. It's very, very dull. We've tried to sharpen it and it just will not take an edge, so I just don't even mess with it for food. So I'm thinking that I'm going to cut about like that. They're not going to be even, and that's okay because these are for personal use anyway. But you just, let me do it from this side. Just take your blade and push straight down with even pressure, and boom. Just going to use this as a guide to try to keep them as even as possible, even though again it doesn't really matter. Actually, these came out pretty even. So, here are these little bars. These are perfect for me. And the top is just a little bit textured. There's the bottom. And then you see the little confettis inside. Aren't they cute? And there's the next one. You can see a little bit of that crumbling happen there, like I was talking about. There's one. That one has a lot of red in it. More crumble happened there, if you can see. That's fine. Didn't really happen on the big bars, and you can see that piece is just gonna fall off. Maybe I can just squish it. Yeah, I can just squish it and smear it back together. There's one. And there's the last piece. There's a big chunk there. That was probably a confetti that got cut in half, and then it just stayed with the other half of the bar. So that is it. That's all that I have for you all today. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on that bell notification icon so you don't miss any of my uploads. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you think of this. Would you all like to see more confetti soaps on this channel? If you do, please let me know. I would be happy to make some. I actually have some soap that I wouldn't mind to shred up. It didn't turn out so great, so it would be perfect for confetti soap. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I will see you all for the next video. Bye-bye.